Hi, my name is Todd Manoff, and I'm Manager of Mechanical Maintenance here at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk.
Do you remember your first aero ride?
First aero ride I probably rode was here at the boardwalk. Whether it was the cave train or the dipper or the speedboats, I'm not sure, but I rode all of them when I was a little kid.
So why do you personally think aero rides were so attractive to the people in the industry, maybe the boardwalk and yourself?
Because the aero rides were attractive to buyers because of the high quality at a great price. They were very inventive. Ed and Carl Bacon were innovators in so many ride systems that they were different, unique, and quality equipment that you didn't have to maintain as much as a lot of the other manufacturers.
Do you think Aero felt different from other amusement companies? I mean, they were local, they seemed to have sort of a family kind of vibe. Do you think they were better or different than others at the time?
At the time, yes. They were much better in the ways that a lot of the other companies made carnival type rides, portable type rides, and that because there really wasn't theme parks back then. You know, there was more fairs and see, now I went blank.
Okay.
Fairs and carnivals, and not theme parks, but there was amusement parks that they catered to. So they offered a different type of product. Something that you didn't see at your normal park around the United States.
Now we're going to talk about the log ride a little bit. What were the challenges faced in putting this in, and how did they put this ride in, and why?
Well, the flume ride was an innovation of Carl Bacon's, and they were going in, about every park had to have a flume. I mean, so they were going in all over the place, and it was something that the park felt that we needed to keep up with the times and add one to our park here. Now, of course, we're limited on ground space, so it was a challenge to fit it in here. And in fact, if you look at some of the run out, actually the run out had to be shortened to get it to fit into the area necessary.
What does it take to maintain the log ride?
The log ride is a big maintenance feat. Of course, being here on the ocean doesn't help either, because we have the elements that are always working against us. But yeah, it's a big job. We work on it, you know, in the off season. Throughout the entire rehab season, we're working on that ride, rebuilding it, redoing the fiberglass, working on the structure, rebuilding the boats.
Was there anything that happened to this ride during the earthquake, and was there anything that needed to be done after that happened in '89, or was there not really? Was it a pretty?
Yeah, there really wasn't a whole lot of damage done to the flume ride. Sometimes we think maybe it shifted a little bit, but it still runs good, and we don't seem to have any problems. So, yeah, I think most everything survived quite well, considering it's all on sand.
So the kiddie boats, as you mentioned to me, it's the oldest aero ride here. And as far as I'm concerned, it might be the oldest aero ride still operating to this day. So that's a pretty special ride, Ned. You want to talk a little bit about that?
It is. Our speedboat ride was built in 1951. It was one of those early rides that Aero got a contract for. Prior to that, they were building crop dusting equipment for a company, and the crop dusting company went out of business suddenly, which left them high and dry. So they had some difficult times there trying to figure out where they were going to get some work to keep the doors open. So this was one of the rides that really helped Aero keep in the amusement industry.
And it seems like it's a pretty popular ride to this day.
To this day, it's still crowded and filled up every cycle. So
I mean, that's pretty much it for that ride. It's pretty small.
Pretty small.
So for the cave train, that's a special ride to me, just because I really love trains and everything. And it's been here since
1961. This was installed in 1961 when this whole lower area of the park was built. And this is when we added our infrastructure, and had our basement area put in for our maintenance shops. Originally, the track was a little different layout than it is today, just as we evolved here. But when this went in, there was also the Aero gas cars that were installed at the same time, and they went around this ride. And the loggers ride was also put in later on then. Originally we still had the Wild Mouse here at the time all the cave train and the gas cars are running.
So around 97 and 98, this whole lower end came to a point where it's time to free up some space and make some changes. Can you talk a little bit about what happened? I know there was an outcry because I know at one point the cave train was said it's going to be gone.
Yeah, well, there was thought of removing it, and of course the public all came up and saved it, which is good. It's, people love the corniness feel of it, of the cavemen and their funky little things they do throughout the ride.
In maintaining it, I mean, there's not really probably well, the animatronics, I guess, there's a lot to work with.
Yeah, you're always working on the gags, keeping the gags in the ride working. The locomotives were extremely well built, so they're pretty soundproof. We just finished last year completely tearing down and rebuilding one of the locomotives, and we'll do it to the second one this year.
And they were originally, it was gas, they had like a Corvair engine or something like it?
They made them in a couple different ways.
Okay.
They did use Corvair engines for outside rides, have the gasoline engines, but since this was an indoor type of ride, we needed to have something besides the gas engine running, so we chose with the electric system. So it's a 72 volt battery packs, 2 battery packs that weigh about a ton each.
Wow.
That propel the locomotive, and they're installed in the tenor of the locomotive. So that's the power source there.
You worked at Chance Morgan, which was Morgan Manufacturing, which was a spin-off. You could call it a spin-off of basically Aero.
Yes. Yeah. Ed Morgan and Carl Bacon, of course, had Aero Development, and they retired in around 1973, and the company was sold to Rio Grande Railway. At that time, their son Dana worked for Aero. He was I think what he was, general manager at Aero or something like that. And then after the company was sold and became Aerodynamics and moved to Utah, Dana went to Disney, and he was actually general manager here at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. And then he decided to open his own manufacturing company. And really the start of Dana's company was building new trains for the Giant Dipper, which had existing Aero development trains running on the Dipper. So that was the big start for Dana to get into the amusement industry. And then I worked for Dana for about 9 or 10 years. And then when Dana retired, I worked for Chance Morgan, who bought out Morgan Manufacturing.
Okay.
And then I came here.
Yeah. Well, and I guess Bridget was saying, I've heard from multiple people that Dana still is consulting with you guys here.
Yeah. He was down here helping us actually on the Flume ride last year, working out some issues we were having with that.
Do you have any thoughts on why do you think Aero did not continue to be successful? Why do you think they failed?
Well,
gone, I guess. Not failed.
I think Aero Development was very successful, and they were successful all the way through Ed and Carl's career with the company. And there was incredible talent that worked for that company. And I was fortunate enough to be able to work with a number of those folks as they moved on to DH Morgan Manufacturing later on. But I think what happened was when Aero Development sold to Rio Grande Railway, they had a different outlook on how things were. They weren't amusement park people, so they just didn't really get it, get the whole concept of how that business operated. And so there was, Ed and Carl both consulted for Rio Grande Railway for a number of years, and they eventually just got out because it just wasn't a relationship that was working out well. So.
Do you spell do you still speak with a representative from S&S since they end up ultimately buying out Aero around 2002 or so? They're still talking about parts and things for your Aero?
Yep. Yeah, I'm still in connection with S&S Aero, or S&S Worldwide now it is, with Carolyn, who's the part rep, and she's an old Aero person too, who did the parts for aerodynamics. So.
When we, as a side note, when we were filming, everybody talked about Carolyn. So she seems like she must be a really nice person to work with.
Yeah, she's a great person. She's always very helpful and trying to chase down old drawings and get parts manufactured and whatnot for us for our older rides. So
the final question that I have, and then if you want to add anything else, but my final question is, what do you think is the ultimate legacy of Aero? Is it the trains, the tubular steel? Is it the people that started it? What do you think is the ultimate legacy?
I think it's Ed and Carl. I mean, and the innovative ideas and the work they did in the amusement industry to make it what it is today. They were just incredibly intelligent people, talented people, beyond you can imagine. And if it wasn't for what Ed and Carl did today, the amusement industry would be a completely different place. They not only designed so many different things, including the tubular steel roller coaster, the flume ride, on and on of the different rides that they designed, but they had to invent how that was going to work. They had to, they created it. They created the idea to make that happen. It was just great working side by side with Ed, just being a mentor and and all the people that I worked with at D.H. Morgan, George Olson, Steve Okamoto, Tom Humphreys, just incredibly talented people, and to be able to have the experience of learning from them was just something you could never buy.